Hello everybody and happy Halloween. I thought it'd be quite a fun video to take a look at all the skins in Doktors Curse for Halloween and explain what their real life counterpart is and sort of the design of each skin, because some of them actually have a lot of meaning behind the operators' backstories and who they are, and especially their gadgets, and I just think it's pretty cool. So be sure to drop a like on this video if you do enjoy, subscribe if you haven't, and let's get into this Halloween special. Now let's start off with some of the new skins. Mainly, let's look at Fenr and Deimos, because these two skins go hand in hand. Now, of course, Fenrir's one is quite obvious that he is a werewolf, but that's also based on his codename being Fenrir, the giant wolf from Norse mythology. So it's obviously a play on that, but also the fact with Deimos as well seems to be a werewolf hunter, because as you can see on his chest plate for his Doktors Curse skin, it has scratch marks all over it, seemingly getting in a fight with a werewolf, be it Fenrir. And this also makes sense because in actual R6 lore, Deimos once worked with Fenrir. Fenrir was a scientist who escaped Deimos, so you have this dynamic of Deimos basically hunting Fenrir, who defected from him and assisted Rainbow. So in a similar vein, we have this werewolf and this werewolf hunter being Deimos. Quite a cool Halloween spin on the actual story for Deimos and Fenrir. Taking a look at some of the older skins, the one for Doc is pretty obvious. He is the Doctor. He is the one responsible for making these monsters, and he's basically this mad scientist who is responsible for all of this. Hence why the announcer says that you've tampered with nature and these hunters are coming after him. Bandits one being this sort of undead convict who was sentenced to the electric chair, could also be a play on his lore as well, since he did go undercover in the Hells Angels criminal organization. So him sort of going undercover as a criminal gang member himself could be a play into this convict skin for him. The Pulse one is pretty obvious due to the fact that he is a bat. Pulse uses his sensor to see where heartbeats are, and it's similar to how bats use echolocation. This one is more of an example of where they've taken the gadget rather than the character's story, but I think that is a really fun way of how they've adapted how Pulse's gadget works to a more horror aspect. It's a really fun one. Ayana's one is also a really fun one which plays into her lore because she is all about space. She's a very smart scientist. She actually went on the International Space Station at one point, and that's actually why she developed her gadget, so she could be in the International Space Station whilst piloting a decoy version of her to walk on the moon. So technically she could walk on the moon whilst actually not physically being on it. So the designer's done a really fun thing here where they have taken this concept of Ayana being this space astronaut, and maybe she went a bit too far in space and came across this parasite which has eventually killed her and taken over her body. Again, another really fun twist on a character's lore for a Halloween setting. Now the one for Dokkaebi is the most literal one they've made, but a lot of people don't actually realize it because they don't actually know what a Dokkaebi is. In Korean folklore and mythology, Dokkaebis are legendary creatures, which can be summarized to basically Korean goblins. That's actually what she's always been named after, and that is what her icon is meant to be, so they took it literal and made her Halloween skin a Dokkaebi. That is what this skin is. Dokkaebi is a Dokkaebi, which is really fun when you actually understand that and know this fact. Melissa's one also makes her this sort of undead zombie ghost bride by the looks of it, considering the fact she's wearing a veil. But I actually think she is meant to be a banshee, based on the name of her gadget as well being the banshee, because a banshee is a supernatural female spirit that warns of an impending death by wailing, screaming, or lamenting. So to me, she seems like she is actually meant to be a banshee. Asami's one is a Japanese folklore creature known as an oni, and they actually made this one look very similar to its counterpart. And fun fact, you've also got yokais in Japanese folklore as well, which is the name of Echo's drone. So a little fun fact there. Nomad's one, which is titled Ill-Fated Explorer, is a mummified explorer who has been decomposing over the years. Now we know in Nomad's lore she is basically the Lara Croft of Team Rainbow. She loves expeditions, done so much stuff. So making her this mummified explorer makes a lot for Nomad's lore, and it just looks absolutely sick if we're being honest. Oryx's one seems to be based on a demon and sort of Hellboy-esque creature. The main thing I guess we could compare here is the fact of the horns which an Oryx has, making the character of Oryx a suitable fit for this character with horns, but he definitely does give this sort of Hellboy vibe, which is pretty cool. Thorn's one, which is this sort of skin suit one, which is actually quite similar to Ella's one. Thorn's one has a dumbbell in her mouth because she likes to lift. That is something that's part of her story. But I'm also going to include Ella's one in here as well, because I don't really think there's much other than that, like, that goes into their story. I don't really think Ella's one has that much story behind it other than just being a skin suit, but those two are pretty similar to each other. Although it doesn't really look like it, the one for Smoke sort of reminds me like the creature from the Black Lagoon sort of thing. Again, I don't know if there's really much of a connection between him and Smoke. Again, another thing I guess you could say is his gadget being this sort of toxic gas. And it seems like this creature, which Smoke is, you know, takes in all this toxic fumes and all these toxic sludge and stuff like that. So that's sort of the connection I can see with his skin. But if I missed something, of course, drop it in the comments. Now, next one I actually can't tell what it's meant to be. It's either like a plague doctor or this sort of crow witch doctor thing. I think it's like a mix-up of a few stuff. Again, if there's a blatant reference here that I'm missing, comment it. But I don't really see a massive connotation between this and Nook as well. But again, it's a really cool skin. And it could maybe be down like the lines of magic, hence why she can go invisible in the mode, similar to how Nook can go invisible to cameras in Real Siege. Legion's one is him as a reanimated zombie. However, what is actually powering him is his goo mines. Jackal's one, which makes him an anglerfish, could be based on the fact that they use their lights to attract their prey. So I guess in a similar way, he uses that to track footsteps to get his prey as well. Capcan's one is simply just a skull. I guess you can make the connotations that a evil possessed skull would cause a lot of explosions, so we could make that little jump there. The one with Frost having this big, open, devouring mouth kind of looks like one of her frost mats. So the way this big mouth would tear into you and rip off limbs, so would one of her bear traps. I think that's what they were going for with Frost, but I could be wrong. Kaid's one is a vampire, and although I don't think there is much link between him and Kaid, when they did bring Doktors Curse back, they done this little story where the doctor was actually out, and it seems like Kaid was actually running the castle. So not really a major connotation with the character himself, but it seems like Kaid's character plays a more important role in this sort of tiny Doktors Curse universe. Gridlock's one is another one which doesn't really link to her character at all, really. She is this dead pirate who's been dead at sea for many years and is now reanimated. The little connection I could make between her gadget and this skin, but this might be a little bit of a reach, is the way the track stinger deploys and slows you down is the same way the ocean would drag you down as well, and it just builds and builds upon until you're eventually dead, and that is what Gridlock's skin is. Aruni's one is this little shop of horrors plant trap sort of one. I guess the connection we can make here as well is in Azami's lore, she would try and disarm a lot of older mines which were used in the wars before. Because if you don't know, a lot of older landmines still existing even post-war is a massive issue in this world, and that's one of the things that Aruni did do. So the way that she's trying to disarm all of these traps, she in turn for her Halloween skin is a trap. This big Venus flytrap. Lion's skin has his head in a jar, which is usually used to preserve and study someone's head for scientific reasons going forward. Again, I struggle to see the connection for Lion here, but if you see anything, be sure to drop a comment, but it's a cool skin. And the final two I'm going to group together is the one for Sledge and Zofia. And they kind of just look like your stereotypical monster hunters from these older movies where, you know, you have all these rich people around a table and they have a silver bullet and it's who can hunt the most monsters in one night sort of thing. Marvel, as burnt out I am with the Marvel series, they actually done a really fun thing called Werewolf by Night, where it was this sort of thing where you had these monster hunters and they had to go hunt this monster. So I believe it's a similar thing of this group of monster hunters, and that is what Zofia and Sledge are meant to be, because they kind of give that vibe and they look pretty sick. And so everyone, that is my explanation for all of the Doktors Curse skins in Rainbow Six Siege. To the best of my knowledge, I may have missed stuff, but I thought this would have been a fun little one-off video for Halloween, since it's pretty fun and I've never seen anyone talk about this before either. So be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy, subscribe if you're new. Catch you all later. I love you all. Stay safe. Peace.